The combined fleet gathered at the staging point like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. 60 human warships formed the core, their gray hulls bristling with weapons. Around them, 300 alien vessels waited, ships from a dozen different species, all refitted with human technology and crewed by people who had learned to fight. Admiral Christine Park stood on the bridge of the Ranger, looking at the tactical display. Every green dot represented a ship under her command. Every green dot represented lives that depended on her decisions. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Lieutenant Ben Torres said from his station. Christine took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had worked for over the past 4 months came down to the next few hours. Send the order. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Target, Vrex home system. Execute on my mark. The fleet jumped together. One moment they were in empty space. The next they emerged in the heart of Vrex territory. Alarms immediately started screaming across every bridge. "Contacts! Thousands of contacts!" Torres shouted. "Vrex fleet is launching from orbital facilities." The Vrex response was instant and overwhelming. Ships poured from massive stations orbiting the central planet. The space around the Queen World became a storm of metal and fire. Thousands of Vrex vessels, all sizes, all rushing to defend their home. "All ships, battle formation," Christine ordered. "Focus fire on capital ships. Destroy their production capabilities. Fighter wings, launch now." The void lit up with weapon fire. Human railguns sent metal slugs through Vrex hulls. Missiles tracked targets through clouds of debris. Laser batteries carved through armor plating. The alien ships fought alongside the humans, their crews performing maneuvers they had practiced hundreds of times. Captain Kate Morrison led her fighter squadron through the chaos. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced precision, dodging Vrex fire and returning her own. "Phoenix Squadron, form up on me. We are going for those orbital yards." 12 fighters followed her in tight formation. They wove between capital ships, too small and fast for the bigger weapons to track. Vrex fighters tried to intercept them, but the human pilots had reflexes honed by evolution on a high-gravity world. They moved like nothing the Vrex had encountered before. Kate lined up her shot on a massive construction facility. She fired every missile she had. They streaked across space and slammed into the structure. Explosions rippled through the facility. It broke apart, pieces tumbling into the planet's gravity well. That is one down, multiple targets remaining. The battle in space raged on, but the real mission was on the planet below. Colonel Nathan Price stood in the dropship's cargo bay, surrounded by 300 Marines in powered armor. This was the largest ground assault team they could manage. It had to be enough. 2 minutes to drop zone, the pilot announced. "Enemy fire is heavy. This is going to be rough." Nathan activated his speakers so all the Marines could hear. "You all know the mission. We land, we fight our way to the Queen's core, we plant the charges, and we get out. The entire planet is hostile. The walls will try to kill you. The floor will try to kill you. Everything you see is part of one massive organism that knows we are coming." He paused, looking at the faces around him. Young and old. Men and women. People who had volunteered to walk into hell because it needed to be done. But remember this. We are humans. We come from Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every single day for 2 million years. It threw predators at us. It threw diseases at us. It threw ice ages and volcanoes and hurricanes at us. And we are still here. This planet is dangerous, but we evolved on dangerous. Let us show them what Deathworlders can do. The Marines roared their approval. The sound echoed through the dropship, primal and fierce. The landing was violent. Vrex bioweapons in the atmosphere shot acid at the incoming ships. 3 dropships took critical damage, but the pilots managed controlled crashes. All the Marines made it out alive. Nathan's boots hit the surface, and he immediately understood what Paul had meant. The ground was not rock or soil. It was flesh. Warm, pulsing flesh that moved under his feet. The entire planet was alive. "Defensive perimeter! Watch all directions!" Vrex warriors erupted from openings in the ground. They came from walls that split open like wounds. They dropped from organic structures overhead. Thousands of them, all trying to stop the human advance. The Marines opened fire. Railgun rounds tore through chitin armor. Grenades exploded in clusters of Vrex warriors. Flamethrowers created barriers of fire, but for every Vrex that fell, 2 more took its place. "Push forward," Nathan ordered. "We have to reach the core." They advanced meter by meter. The Marines moved in tight formation, covering each other, never stopping. Sergeant Linda Hayes was at the front, her rifle spitting fire continuously. "Corridor ahead," she shouted. "Organic tunnel leading down." "That is our path. Move!" They entered the tunnel and immediately the walls began closing in. The planet was trying to crush them. Nathan pulled out explosives and tossed them at the constricting walls. The blast tore the tissue open, and they pushed through before it could heal. The deeper they went, the worse it got. The air was thick with spores that tried to infect them. Their armor protected them, but the filters were clogging. The temperature kept rising. Everything was designed to kill them. "How much farther?" Marcus Webb asked between bursts of fire. "According to scans, 2 kilometers," Nathan answered. "Keep moving." They fought through living corridors, through chambers where the walls bled when they fired, through spaces where the floor tried to digest them. Marines fell, pulled down by organic tentacles that erupted from nowhere. Others were hit by Vrex acid. But the formation held. They kept pushing forward. In orbit, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. The space battle was brutal, but they were winning. Human tactics and training were making the difference. But on the ground, the Marines were taking heavy casualties. "Admiral, should we send reinforcements?" Torres asked. "Negative. We need every ship up here to keep the Vrex fleet occupied. The ground team knows what they signed up for. They will complete the mission." Nathan's team finally reached the core chamber. It was massive, easily a kilometer across. At the center, a huge organic structure pulsed with bioluminescent light. Neural pathways as thick as tree trunks spread out in all directions. This was the Queen's brain, the central intelligence controlling every Vrex in the galaxy. "Plant the charges around the support structures," Nathan ordered. "We have 10 minutes before this whole place figures out what we are doing." The Marines spread out, placing nuclear charges at key points. The Vrex warriors kept coming, wave after wave. The Marines formed a defensive circle around the demolition team, firing in all directions. "Charges set," Marcus reported. "Timer active. 10 minutes. Everyone out. Now." The retreat was a fighting withdrawal through hell. The planet knew what was happening now. Every part of it tried to stop them. Walls grew spikes. Floors opened into pits filled with acid. The ceiling rained burning liquid. Marines dragged their wounded. Some stayed behind to hold positions so others could escape. They made it back to the surface with 3 minutes to spare. The dropships were already there, engines running hot. Marines piled in as fast as they could. "Last ship launching," the pilot reported. 30 seconds to detonation." The dropships climbed hard, fighting against gravity and Vrex bioweapons. Nathan watched the planet shrink below them, counting down the seconds. The nuclear charges detonated simultaneously. The effect was instant and catastrophic. The explosions created a chain reaction that spread through the Queen's biological structure. Neural pathways burned. Support systems collapsed. The entire planet convulsed. In space, every Vrex ship simply stopped. One moment they were fighting. The next, they went dark, dead in space. Their connection to the Hive intelligence had been severed. On every world across the galaxy, Vrex warriors collapsed where they stood. The Hive mind was gone. They were just bodies now, unable to function without the central intelligence. The Galactic Council watched from their chambers in stunned silence. The feeds showed Vrex forces going dormant everywhere, on occupied worlds, in space, every single one. "It is over," Ambassador Kelvin whispered. "They are gone." High Counselor Marin floated forward. "The Vrex are extinct. An entire species, erased in a single day. They gave us no choice," Captain Vorn said quietly. "It was them or us." The aftermath took months. Human teams helped clear dormant wrecks from occupied worlds. Refugees returned to their homes. Reconstruction began. The galaxy started to heal. 6 months later, a ceremony was held on Therion Prime. The Galactic Council formally welcomed humanity as its newest member. Admiral Park, Colonel Price, and Commander Jacob Hayes stood as representatives of Earth. "You saved us," Marin said to the assembled crowd. "You brought to this war something we had forgotten, the will to survive at any cost. You are warriors born from a world that made you strong. The galaxy is forever in your debt." Christine stepped forward to accept the honor, but her face was serious. "We did what needed to be done, but learn from this. Peace is precious, but you must maintain the ability to defend it. Never forget how to fight, even if you hope never to fight again." In the years that followed, humanity took its place in the galactic community. But they also became the protectors. The signal came on a Tuesday morning, though nobody on Earth knew what day it was for the aliens who sent it. Captain Linda Morris was drinking her third cup of coffee when the communications officer burst onto the bridge of the ESS Defender. His face was pale and his hand shook as he carried the datapad. "Captain, you need to see this right now," Lieutenant Peter Grant said. He was young, barely 25, and Linda had never seen him look so scared. She took the pad and pressed play. The screen filled with images that made her stomach turn. Cities were burning. Not small fires, but entire metropolises consumed by flames that reached into the sky. Crowds of people ran through streets carrying children, dragging the elderly. But these were not human people. They were tall and made of something that looked like crystal. Their bodies reflected light in rainbow patterns, but those patterns were dim now, fading like dying stars. The video switched to space. Ships that looked like frozen shards of ice floated dead in the void. Some were cut in half. Others had holes punched through them so large that Linda could see stars on the other side. Around these dead ships, things moved. Living things. They looked like insects, but each one was as big as a bus. They had too many legs and claws that could tear metal like paper. Then a face appeared on the screen. It was a woman, or at least something like a woman. Her crystalline features were cracked as if she had been crying, though Linda did not know if these aliens could cry. When she spoke, it was in broken English, the words awkward in her mouth. "We are the Velkari. For 3,000 years we have ruled this part of the galaxy. We thought we were strong. We thought we were safe. We were wrong." The alien woman paused, and her whole body seemed to dim. Something came from the dark between stars. "We call them the Swarm. They eat everything. They kill everything. We have fought them for 2 years. We have used every weapon we possess. Nothing works. They adapt too fast. They evolve too quickly. We have lost 4 worlds. Billions of our people are dead." The woman looked directly into the camera, and Linda felt like those strange eyes could see across all the light years between them. "We know there are other species out there. We know some of you can hear this. We are begging you, please help us. We are dying. Our children are dying. If anyone has mercy, if anyone will answer, please come. We cannot fight them alone anymore." The message ended. The screen went black. Linda set down the pad and realized her hands were shaking too. "How long ago was this sent?" she asked. Peter checked his console. "The signal is 3 weeks old, ma'am. It takes that long for radio waves to reach us from their space." Commander Jake Sullivan walked over from the tactical station. He was older than Linda, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands from 20 years in the fleet. "The Velkari," he said quietly. "The same Velkari who told us to stay in our own solar system or they would destroy us." Those Velkari, Linda remembered. It had been 7 years ago when Earth's first colony ship tried to leave for Alpha Centauri. The Velkari had appeared out of nowhere in their crystal ships. They had weapons that could turn a moon into dust. They told humanity very clearly, stay home or die. Earth had no choice. Humanity was still too new to space, too weak to fight back. So they stayed. "Yes," Linda said. "Those Velkari." The bridge was silent for a long moment. Outside the window, stars shone cold and distant. Earth was down there somewhere, a blue marble spinning in the dark. It was home. It was safe. And these aliens had threatened to destroy it. "What do we do, Captain?" Peter asked. Linda stood up and walked to the window. She thought about her daughter, who was 5 years old and lived with her grandmother in Seattle. She thought about all the children on Earth, human children who got to grow up safe because humanity had been smart enough not to pick a fight they could not win. Then she thought about the alien children in that video, running through burning streets. "Get me a line to Earth Command," she said. "I need to speak with Admiral Henderson." The call took 30 minutes to connect. When Admiral Henderson's face appeared on the screen, he looked tired. He was an old man now, close to 70, but his eyes were still sharp. "Captain Morris," he said, "I assume you have seen the Velkari transmission." "Yes, sir. The whole fleet has seen it by now." Henderson nodded. "Earth's government is divided. Half of them want to ignore the message. They say the Velkari are getting what they deserve. The other half says this is our chance to prove we belong in the galactic community, that we are not savages who let entire civilizations die just because they were rude to us." "What do you think, sir?" Linda asked. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I think about my grandson. He is 3 years old. I think about what I would do if monsters came to Earth and we needed help. I would want someone to answer. Anyone, even an old enemy." He looked directly at Linda through the screen. "I am asking for volunteers. Ships and crews willing to go into Velkari space and fight. It will be dangerous. We do not know what we are flying into, but it is the right thing to do." Linda did not hesitate. "The Defender volunteers, sir." "My whole crew will go." Henderson smiled just a little. "I knew you would say that. I have 11 other ships saying the same thing. Get your crew ready, Captain. You leave in 3 days." The next 3 days passed in a blur. Linda gathered her crew and told them the truth. They were going to help the aliens who had once threatened Earth. Some of the crew were angry at first. A few wanted to refuse. But then Linda played the video again, and when they saw those children running, when they heard that desperate voice begging the stars for help, most of them changed their minds. "We are human," Linda told them in the mess hall on the last night before they left. "We could be cruel. We could be petty. We could let the Velkari die and say they deserved it, but that is not who we are. We are better than that. We have always been better than that." Corporal Ben Hayes stood up. He was a Marine, big and tough, with a scar across his cheek. "My dog saved my life once," he said. "I was a kid, maybe 8 years old. I fell through ice on a frozen pond. My dog jumped in and pulled me out. He did not think about whether I deserved saving. He just did it because that is what you do for someone in trouble." He looked around the room. If a dog has that much heart, then so should we. The crew voted, 48-3. They would go. On the morning they left, Linda stood on the bridge and watched Earth shrink behind them. Somewhere down there, her daughter was playing in the yard. Not knowing her mother was flying off to war, Linda touched the window glass, sending a silent goodbye. "All ships report ready," Peter said from communications. "We are cleared for jump. Take us in," Linda ordered. The 12 Earth ships activated their jump drives. Space folded around them, and in a flash of light that hurt to look at, they vanished. When they reappeared, they were in Velkari space. And what they found there was worse than anything they had imagined. Fire filled the void. Everywhere Linda looked, there was destruction. Velkari ships fought desperately against the swarm, but they were losing. For every bug creature they killed, 10 more appeared. The elegant energy weapons of the Velkari barely scratched the monster's armor. It was like watching someone try to fight a hurricane with a candle. "Dear God," Jake whispered beside her. Linda opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Morris. Load kinetic rounds, ready missiles. These things evolved to fight energy weapons. Let us show them what bullets feel like. We are going in." The 12 human ships, ugly and crude compared to the crystal beauty of Velkari vessels, charged forward, and the swarm turned to face this new threat. Not knowing that Earth's warriors brought something the galaxy had forgotten, the raw, brutal efficiency of primitive weapons in the hands of people who refused to let others die alone. The first railgun shot left the Defender with a sound like thunder trapped in a metal box. Linda watched the slug streak across space, moving so fast it was just a blur of light. It hit a swarm creature dead center, and the bug simply exploded. Pieces of it flew in every direction, spinning off into the void. "Target destroyed," Lieutenant Amy Brooks called from the weapons station. Her voice was tight with excitement. Railgun 1 reloading, engaging target 2. Around the Defender, the other 11 Earth ships opened fire. Railguns roared. Missiles streaked through space, leaving trails of white exhaust. Nuclear warheads detonated in brilliant flashes that turned night into day, and everywhere the human weapons struck, swarm creatures died. The bugs had been expecting energy weapons. Their armor was designed to spread out heat to absorb plasma to deflect lasers. But a chunk of metal moving at 20,000 miles per second did not care about armor. It just hit, and whatever it hit stopped existing. "They are not adapting," Peter said from his station. He sounded amazed. "The swarm keeps charging us, but they have no defense against kinetic weapons." Commander Jake Sullivan pulled up the tactical map. "The Velkari are pulling back. They are regrouping behind our position." He looked at Linda. "They are using us as a shield." Linda nodded. "Let them. That is what we came here to do." She opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships maintain formation. Pour it on. Do not let a single bug through." The battle turned into something brutal and ugly. This was not the clean warfare of energy beams and shields. This was raw violence, metal against flesh. Explosions that sent chunks of swarm creatures bouncing off ship hulls. Lieutenant Danny Fisher manned the point defense guns, and he was laughing as the automated cannons chewed through any bug that got too close. "It is like shooting fish in a barrel," Danny shouted over the comm. "They just keep coming straight at us." But there were so many of them. For every 10 the humans killed, 100 more seemed to appear. They came in waves that darkened the stars, their claws scraping against ship armor, their mandibles trying to bite through steel. One bug landed on the hull of the Defender. Linda could hear it scratching above her head, metal screaming as claws dug for purchase. Then the point defense gun swiveled, and a burst of rounds punched through the creature. Its body slid off the hull and spun away into space. "Hull breach on Deck 7, a damage control officer reported. "Sealing now. Casualties?" Linda asked. 2 wounded. No deaths. The fight went on for hours. Linda lost track of time. Her world became the tactical display, the constant reports from her crew, the endless decisions about where to position the ship and when to fire. Her coffee went cold in the cup holder. Her throat was dry from giving orders. Then something changed. The swarm began to pull back, not retreating exactly but regrouping, gathering into a massive cluster about 1,000 miles away. The human ships held their position, weapons still hot, waiting. "What are they doing?" Amy asked. Jake studied his sensors. "I think they are reassessing. They came here expecting to fight Velkari. We are something new, something they have not encountered before." A communication came through on the emergency channel. It was a Velkari voice speaking in that strange musical tone they had. "Human vessels, this is Velkari Command Ship Brightness of Dawn. We are reading your identification codes. You are from Earth." Linda keyed her microphone. "This is Captain Linda Morris of the ESS Defender. We received your distress call. We came to help." There was a long pause. Then the Velkari voice came back, and it sounded like it was shaking. "You came. We threatened your species. We forced you to stay in your system. We treated you like children, like primitives, and still you came. Nobody deserves extinction," Linda said simply. "Not even former enemies." Another pause. "Captain Morris, we are transferring fleet coordination to your tactical network. We will follow your lead. Your weapons are effective where ours have failed. Command us as you see fit." Jake looked at Linda with wide eyes. The Velkari were offering to put their entire fleet under human command. It was unthinkable. The Velkari had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. They were one of the oldest and proudest species in the galaxy, and they were asking primitive humans to lead them. Linda took a breath. "Velkari Command, understood. All ships, Velkari and human, new formation. We are going to hit them hard and fast. No fancy tactics. We go in, we kill everything that moves, and we do not stop until they break." The combined fleet moved forward. The Velkari ships, elegant and beautiful, flew alongside the blocky human vessels, energy weapons and kinetic rounds fired together. And when the swarm tried to charge again, they found themselves caught in a killing field that gave them no mercy. The swarm broke after another 3 hours. The survivors fled, jumping away into deep space. When the last bug vanished, the battlefield was filled with floating corpses, millions of them drifting in the void like a grotesque asteroid field. Linda slumped in her chair. Every muscle in her body ached. Around her, the bridge crew looked just as exhausted. Amy had her head down on her console. Peter was drinking water from a bottle with shaking hands. Even Jake, who had seen more combat than any of them, looked pale and tired. "Damage report," Linda said quietly. "We lost the Vigilant and the Ranger," came the reply from Fleet Coordination. 317 crew members dead, another 140 wounded. The remaining ships have varying degrees of damage, but all are still operational. Linda closed her eyes. 317 people who had volunteered to help strangers. 317 people who would never see Earth again. She would have to write letters to their families. She would have to find words to explain why their loved ones had died fighting for aliens who had once been enemies. "Captain, we are being hailed by the Valkyrie flagship," Peter said. Linda opened her eyes. "Put them through." The screen filled with the image of a Valkyrie unlike any they had seen before. She was tall, even for her species, and her crystalline body glowed with inner light despite clearly being exhausted. Cracks ran through her features like scars. When she spoke, her voice was strong but carried an edge of deep weariness. "Captain Morris, I am High Commander Verath of the Valkyrie Defense Fleet. What remains of it, anyway?" She paused. "You saved us. Your weapons, your tactics, your willingness to die for people you have never met. We owe you a debt we can never repay." Linda shook her head. "You do not owe us anything. We did what anyone should do when someone asks for help." Verath made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "You are wrong, Captain. Most species would not have done what you did. They would have left us to die. They would have said we deserved our fate." Her colors shifted, becoming warmer, more golden. "But you came anyway. Knowing we had threatened you, knowing we had been cruel. You came with your primitive weapons and your impossible courage, and you fought like demons from ancient myths." "We are just people," Linda said, "doing what people should do." "No," Verath replied firmly. "You are something more. You are what we had forgotten we could be." She straightened despite her obvious exhaustion. "Captain Morris, the swarm will be back." This was only a fraction of their forces. "They are gathering for another attack, and it will be bigger than anything we have faced before. We need to prepare. We need to plan, and we need your help to do it." Linda looked at Jake, then at her tired crew. They had just fought the battle of their lives. They had lost friends. They had nearly died themselves. The smart thing would be to go home, to let the Valkyrie face their own problem. But Linda thought about those children in the video. She thought about the desperate voice begging the stars for mercy. She thought about what it meant to be human, to be the kind of species that helps instead of abandoning others. "High Commander Verath," Linda said, "the Defender and her fleet will stay as long as you need us. Tell us where to dock. Tell us what you need. We are not going anywhere." Verath's entire body seemed to brighten. "Dock at Valkyrie Prime, Captain. We will meet in person, and I will show you something that might give us a chance against the swarm. Something we should have shared with you years ago, when we first encountered your species. Knowledge, technology, partnership." She paused. "And perhaps if we survive this, a future where Valkyrie and humans stand together as allies instead of strangers." The channel closed. Linda stood and stretched, feeling her spine pop. "You heard the commander. Set course for Valkyrie Prime, and someone get me more coffee. I have a feeling sleep is going to be a luxury we cannot afford for a while." As the Defender turned toward the Valkyrie homeworld, trailing the crystal ships through the debris field, Linda looked out at the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, impossibly far away. Her daughter was down there, safe and sound, not knowing her mother had just fought monsters from another world. And Linda smiled. Just a little. Because somewhere in the history books of the future, people would read about this day. They would read about how humanity had reached out to help an enemy in need, how 12 ships and their crews had changed the course of galactic history, how Earth had answered when someone begged the stars for mercy. The journey to Valkyrie Prime took 6 hours. As they approached, Linda got her first real look at an alien world. It was beautiful. The Valkyrie Command Center was nothing like Linda had expected. She had imagined cold metal and glowing screens, something like the bridges on Earth ships. Instead, she walked into what looked like a cathedral made of light. The walls were crystal that pulsed with soft colors. Information floated in the air as holographic displays that responded to touch and thought. It was beautiful and alien and made her feel very small. High Commander Verath stood in the center of the room, surrounded by other Valkyrie officers. When Linda entered with Jake and Amy, every crystalline head turned to look at them. The room fell silent. "Captain Morris," Verath said, moving forward. She was even taller up close, maybe 7 feet, and her body reflected the light from a dozen different angles. "Welcome to Valkyrie Prime. Welcome to what remains of our home." Linda looked around at the Valkyrie officers. Some of them had cracks running through their bodies, battle damage that had not fully healed. Others were dim, their inner light fading from exhaustion and grief. These were not the proud conquerors who had threatened Earth 7 years ago. These were survivors clinging to hope by their fingertips. "Thank you for having us, High Commander," Linda said. "What do you need from us?" Vareth gestured to a large display that appeared in the air. It showed the swarm's movements over the past 2 years. Red dots spread across the map like a plague, consuming world after world. "The swarm is not random," Vareth explained. "They have a purpose. They move in patterns, always heading toward the galactic core. We believe they are searching for something, though we do not know what." Jake studied the map. "How many of them are there?" A younger Velkari officer, his body still bright with youth, answered. "We estimate billions. Perhaps trillions. They reproduce faster than we can kill them. Every world they consume gives them more resources to breed." "Then how do we win?" Amy asked. "We cannot kill trillions of them." Vareth's colors shifted to something darker, sadder. "We do not know if we can win, but we must try. And to try, we need something we have never had before." She looked directly at Linda. "We need to understand how you fight. Your weapons hurt them, yes, but it is more than that. You fight differently than any species we have encountered. You are aggressive, creative, unpredictable. The swarm cannot adapt to you as easily as they adapted to us." Linda thought about that. "We are younger than you. We have not forgotten how to be dangerous." "Perhaps," Vareth said, "or perhaps it is something else. Something in your nature." She waved her hand and a new image appeared. It showed Earth blue and green and beautiful. "We studied your world before we made contact. We saw your wars, your violence, your history of conquest and bloodshed. We thought you were savages who would threaten the peace of the galaxy. That is why we told you to stay in your system." "You were afraid of us," Jake said quietly. "Yes," Vareth admitted. "We were afraid, but now I see we were wrong. Your capacity for violence is matched by your capacity for mercy. You could have left us to die, but you came to help. That combination, violence and mercy together, is rare in the galaxy." A door opened and another Velkari entered. This one was old, his crystal body cloudy with age, his movements slow. But when he spoke, his voice carried authority. "High Commander, the transports from Earth have arrived." Linda frowned. "Transports? We did not send any transports." Vareth's colors brightened slightly. "We did not either, but it seems your planet decided to send reinforcements without waiting for permission. They went to the landing field, a vast open space on the edge of the city. 3 massive Earth transport ships sat on the ground, their cargo doors open, and from those doors came something that made the Velkari step back in confusion and wonder. Animals. Hundreds of them. Dogs poured down the ramps, big and small, their handlers keeping them in loose groups. Linda recognized military working dogs, German shepherds and Belgian Malinois, trained for combat and tracking. Behind them came wolves, their wild cousins moving in packs with an ancient grace. Horses followed, massive beasts wearing armor that could stop bullets. In cages on hovering platforms, hawks and eagles screeched, their sharp eyes taking in everything. A man in an Earth military uniform walked over. He was older, maybe 50. With the weathered look of someone who had spent his life outdoors. "Captain Morris, I am Colonel Henry Price. Earth Command sent me with the Animal Division. We heard you were fighting bugs and we figured you might need specialists." Linda stared at the menagerie spreading across the landing field. "The Animal Division? I did not know we had an Animal Division." Henry smiled. "We did not until 3 days ago. But when word got out about the swarm, every dog handler, falconer, and cavalry trainer in the military volunteered. Turns out, ma'am, humans have been working with animals for thousands of years. We figured it was time to see if that partnership works in space too." Vareth approached, her crystalline features showing something that might have been awe or confusion. "Captain, what are these creatures?" "These are dogs, wolves, horses, and birds of prey," Linda explained. "We have bred them and trained them for hunting and war since before we even had written language." "They are our partners?" "Our companions." A large wolf padded over and sat down next to one of the handlers, a young woman with bright red hair. The wolf was huge, maybe 150 pounds, with gray fur and yellow eyes that seemed almost intelligent. Vareth knelt down slowly, carefully, and reached out one crystalline hand. The wolf sniffed it, then allowed the touch. "It is alive," Vareth said softly. "Warm, I can feel its heartbeat." She looked up at Linda. "Why did you bring them here?" Henry answered instead. "Because, High Commander, these animals can do things our technology cannot. A dog can smell a swarm creature from miles away. A wolf can track one through any terrain. A horse can carry a soldier faster than any vehicle over rough ground. And a hawk can spot enemies from the sky better than any sensor. He gestured to the animals. The swarm evolved to fight advanced technology, but they have never faced predators, real predators from a death world called Earth. A Velkari scientist approached, his body flickering with curiosity. This is unprecedented. You form bonds with other species? You fight alongside them as equals? Linda nodded. We do not see them as tools. They are partners, friends. Some of these dogs have saved their handlers' lives. Some of these wolves have raised human children as pack members. We trust them, and they trust us. Over the next several days, the humans set up a base on the outskirts of the Velkari city. Training grounds appeared where handlers worked with their animals. The Velkari watched in fascination as dogs responded to hand signals, as wolves coordinated hunts, as horses moved in perfect formation with their riders. Corporal Ben Hayes became something of a celebrity among the Velkari. He was a dog handler, a big man with gentle hands and a patient voice. His dog, a German shepherd named Duke, was one of the best trackers in the division. Young Velkari would come to watch Ben work with Duke, amazed at how the two moved together like one mind in two bodies. How do you communicate with him? A young Velkari female asked. Her name was something that translated as Shimmer of Morning Light, but she told Ben to call her Shimmer. Ben smiled and knelt next to Duke. Watch. He made a simple hand gesture, and Duke immediately lay down. Another gesture, and Duke rolled over. A third gesture, and Duke jumped up and barked once. He understands you, Shimmer said, her colors brightening with excitement. More than that, Ben said. He trusts me. When we are out there fighting, Duke will put himself between me and danger without hesitation, and I would do the same for him. That is what partnership means. Lieutenant Carl White ran the aerial division. He was a helicopter pilot, but more importantly, he was a falconer. His hawk Razor rode on his arm, sharp talons gripping the leather glove. Carl explained to a group of Velkari officers how the birds could spot heat signatures and movement patterns that electronic sensors missed. The swarm has learned to hide from your technology, Carl said, letting Razor hop from his arm to a perch, but they cannot hide from millions of years of evolution. These birds were hunting small, fast-moving prey long before humans even existed. A swarm creature looks like food to them. On the 5th day, the swarm attacked a mining colony on the outer edge of Velkari space. It was a small attack, only a few thousand creatures, but it was close enough that the humans could respond. This is it, Henry said to Linda as they prepared to deploy. Time to see if this crazy idea actually works. The transports landed on the mining colony just as the swarm emerged from underground tunnels. The bugs had learned to burrow, to come up from below where sensors could not detect them. But they had not expected what came next. The dogs deployed first, 40 of them, spread out in teams with their handlers. The moment they hit the ground, they started tracking. Noses to the dirt, moving fast, finding the tunnel entrances that the swarm was using. Within minutes, they had located 16 hidden entrances that the Velkari defenders had missed. Targets marked, Ben reported over the comm. Ready for air support, the Hawks launched. They circled high above the colony, their keen eyes spotting swarm creatures trying to flank around the defenders. Carl watched through binoculars as Razor dove, calling out a warning cry that he had learned to interpret. The swarm came back with everything they had. Every sensor screen turned red with contacts. Every alarm screamed warnings that made the Velkari command center sound like a dying ship. High Commander Verath stood frozen for a moment, staring at the numbers. 2 million swarm creatures, maybe more, dropping out of jump space and heading straight for Velkari Prime. This is it, she said quietly. This is the attack that will decide everything. Captain Linda Morris stood beside her, looking at the same screens. Her face was pale but calm. She had seen the mining colony battle. She knew what the animals could do. But this was different. This was not a few thousand bugs. This was an invasion force large enough to darken the sky. How long until they reached the surface? Linda asked. A Velkari officer checked his instruments. 30 minutes. They are coming in fast, burning straight through our orbital defenses. Linda opened the communication channel to all human forces. All units, this is Morris. Deploy everything. I want every dog, every wolf, every horse, and every bird in the air or on the ground in 20 minutes. This is not a drill. This is the real fight. Across the military base, handlers scrambled. Ben Hayes was already running toward the landing pad with Duke at his side. Kate Morrison gathered her wolf pack, 20 animals that moved like gray shadows. Colonel Henry Price mounted his horse, a massive stallion named Thunder that wore armor plates across its chest and head. In the sky, Carl White fired up his helicopter while Razor screeched from the co-pilot seat. The Velkari deployed their forces too, thousands of soldiers in crystalline armor, carrying plasma rifles and energy shields. Their ships took position in the sky, weapons charged and ready. But everyone knew the truth. The Velkari alone could not win this. They needed the humans. They needed the beasts of Earth. The swarm hit the outer atmosphere like meteors. Thousands of them, burning through the air, their armor glowing red-hot from the friction. They crashed into the ground in waves, some dying on impact but most surviving and immediately beginning their attack. The sound was like thunder that never stopped, a constant rolling boom that shook buildings and cracked streets. The first line of defense was the Velkari. They opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams lit up the sky. Energy shields flickered and flashed as swarm claws struck them. But the bugs kept coming, pushing forward, overwhelming positions through sheer numbers. Then the Earth forces hit them from the side. Ben and 50 other dog handlers released their animals at the same moment. 200 dogs charged into the swarm's flank, moving too fast for the bugs to track. They went for legs and joints, biting and tearing, crippling the creatures so that follow-up fire could finish them. Duke took down a swarm soldier twice his size by going for its throat equivalent, his jaws crushing through chitin like it was plastic. "Good boy," Ben shouted, firing his rifle at another bug. "Good boy, Duke. The wolves came next." Kate had trained them for pack hunting, and they moved like one organism with 20 bodies. Ghost, the alpha, led them straight into the thickest part of the swarm. The bugs tried to surround them, but the wolves were smarter. They used abandoned buildings as cover, led bugs into ambushes, worked together to bring down enemies that no single wolf could kill alone. A young Velkari soldier, barely more than a child, stood paralyzed with fear as 3 swarm creatures closed in on him. He had dropped his rifle and was backing against a wall, his crystalline body flickering with terror. Then Ghost appeared from nowhere, slamming into the first bug with enough force to knock it sideways. 2 other wolves followed, and within seconds all 3 bugs were down. The Velkari soldier stared at Ghost. The wolf looked back, then turned and ran back into the fight. The soldier picked up his rifle with shaking hands and started firing again. In the sky, Carl and the other pilots coordinated with their hawks. The birds could see patterns in the swarm's movement that radar could not detect. They spotted groups gathering for charges, identified weak points in the enemy formation, found isolated bugs that had separated from the main force. "Contact at Grid 77, Carl called out. "Razor says there is a big cluster forming behind that apartment complex." 2 Velkari gunships swooped in and unleashed missiles. The cluster disappeared in a ball of fire. Razor screamed in triumph, and Carl could not help but laugh. But the real shock came when Colonel Henry Price led the cavalry charge. 40 riders on 40 horses, each animal bred for size and strength, each one wearing armor, each rider carrying weapons that could punch through swarm hide. They came around a corner at full gallop, and the swarm never even saw them coming. Thunder weighed over a ton. When he hit a swarm creature at full speed, it was like being struck by a car. The bug flew backward, its armor cracked, its legs broken. Henry fired his plasma lance from horseback, taking out another bug, while Thunder crushed a third one under his hooves. The other riders followed. They moved through the swarm line like a spear through flesh, cutting deep, causing chaos. The bugs had no tactics for dealing with cavalry. They tried to swarm the horses, but the animals were too fast, too strong. A horse could kick with enough force to shatter chitin. They could bite, could rear up and smash down with their front hooves, and the swarm, for the first time since the war began, started to panic. They were predators, evolved to overwhelm prey through numbers and adaptation. But they had never been prey themselves. They had never been hunted by something that was not afraid of them. The dogs and wolves, they hunted for the joy of it, the ancient instinct that went back millions of years. The horses, they fought with a fury that came from being herd animals protecting their group. And the humans, the handlers and riders and soldiers, they fought with something else. They fought with love for their animal partners. When a dog went down wounded, its handler would throw himself between the dog and danger. When a horse stumbled, its rider would dismount to protect it. The swarm could not understand this. They could not adapt to it. The battle raged for 8 hours. The sun set and rose again, and still they fought. The city became a maze of burning buildings and broken streets. Bodies lay everywhere, swarm and Velkari, human and animal. But slowly, impossibly, the defenders began to push the swarm back. Ben found himself fighting back-to-back with a Velkari soldier named Clearlight. She was young, her crystalline body still bright despite exhaustion. Duke and 2 other dogs formed a circle around them, keeping the bugs at bay while they reloaded their weapons. "Your animal," Clearlight said between shots. "He is magnificent. He does not fear death." Ben looked down at Duke. The dog was bleeding from a dozen cuts, but his tail still wagged slightly. "He is not fighting because he is fearless. He is fighting because I am here. That is what loyalty means." Clearlight shot another bug, watched it fall. "We Velkari have lost something. We became so advanced, so civilized that we forgot what it means to have companions, to have bonds stronger than logic." She looked at Ben. "You humans remember. You brought your friends to war with you." "They are more than friends," Ben said. "They are family." Kate and her wolves cleared an entire street block by themselves. The swarm tried to overwhelm them with numbers, but the wolves just fought harder. Ghost took a slash across his shoulder that would have killed a lesser animal, but he just shook it off and kept fighting. When one of the younger wolves got hurt, the whole pack adjusted to protect it, covering its retreat while still maintaining their attack. A group of Velkari soldiers watched in awe. One of them, an officer named Brightness, spoke into his comm unit. "High Commander, you need to see this. The wolves are fighting like trained soldiers, but better. They adapt faster than our computers can calculate." In the command center, Verith watched through drone cameras. She saw dogs pulling wounded Velkari to safety. She saw horses carrying injured soldiers out of combat zones. She saw hawks leading gunships to hidden swarm positions. And she understood something fundamental about Earth and its people. "They did not conquer their world," she said to Linda, who was coordinating the defense from the command center. "They partnered with it. They made alliances with other species. That is their strength." Linda nodded, watching the screens. "We learned a long time ago that we are stronger together. Not just humans, but humans and animals working as one." The swarm's attack broke at dawn on the second day. The bugs that remained began retreating, pulling back to their ships, jumping away into deep space. They left behind millions of dead, a carpet of bodies that covered entire city blocks, but they also left behind something else: fear. For the first time, the swarm had been afraid. When the last swarm ship vanished, a cheer went up across the city. Velkari and human voices mixed together, celebrating survival. In the streets, exhausted soldiers collapsed where they stood. Dogs lay panting beside their handlers. Horses stood with their heads down, flanks heaving. Hawks and eagles returned to their perches, their hunting done. Ben sat on a piece of rubble with Duke's head in his lap. The dog was hurt badly, cuts and bites covering his body, but his tail still moved slightly and his eyes were bright. "You did good, boy," Ben whispered, tears running down his face. "You did so good." A Velkari medic approached. Her name translated as Soft Glow, and she specialized in treating injuries.